Welcome to the world's #1 fitness business podcast for health club owners, gym managers, and fitness entrepreneurs. As always, this will be a great show as we have another expert to help your fitness business and your career. We'd like to thank our premier sponsor, Active Management, for supporting us, and we highly recommend becoming a member of Active Management to strengthen your business in 2016. There are loads of resources members receive, so join the Active Tribe today at www.activemgmt.com.au. Now that's enough from me. Let's welcome the show's amazing host, Chantal. What's on this week's show?
Thanks, Harper. Welcome everyone to this week's show. I am really excited to tell you about our guest because I know how important this topic is to so many of you. This week, I chatted to Adam Robinson. He is the co-founder and CEO of Hireology. And his business is all about helping business owners make better hiring decisions through using predictive data and innovative technology. The reason I reckon you'll like this is because all of the topics that we spoke about. Check it out. We talked about the importance of finding the right person for the job. He answered the question, should you hire on attitude or hire on skills? He tells us what holistic evaluation means and why it's so important. We talk about the role of behavioural profiling in the interview process. And Adam leaves us with his top 3 tips on how to hold on to staff within our businesses. Now, before we get stuck into the interview with Adam, this week's sponsor shout out goes to Rex Roundtables. If you want to check out more information about how you can become a member of Rex, head over to rexroundtables.com.
This month, we have an awesome prize for people who subscribe to the show notes at www.fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Do it and you may be this month's winner. Now it's time for this week's guest.
Tribe, Adam Robinson is the co-founder and CEO of Hireology. He is a noted recruiting industry expert, a speaker and an author with over 20 years of experience in the field of hiring and selection management. Now, Tribe, before I say hi to Adam, there are heaps and heaps of great takeaways in this week's show. So if you are on the treadmill right now, or if you're working out, or if you're driving, anything like that, don't forget that you can get all of the top takeaways from the show in the show notes, which is over on fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. That's it. Let's jump on in and say hi to Adam. Welcome to the show, Adam.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Very, very excited to have you on. Now, I've just shared with the tribe a little bit about your bio. Do you want to maybe let us know what's something that, maybe a hurdle that you've had along your road to success?
Sure. Yeah. Well, this is my third business, second where I've been the majority owner, and third startup. The first one was a great result. The second one, I escaped with my life, and this one, so far, so good.
Very good. There's always hurdles along the way, isn't there?
Absolutely. Yeah. So now I'm on to making bigger and more expensive mistakes.
Yeah. What would you say that you mentioned that second one was just scraped through on that second one? What was the biggest takeaway from that experience, would you say?
Yeah, for me, it was the fundamentals of managing your financial statements and really understanding that you can run a profitable business and still run out of money. And so, we got in a situation where we basically grew ourselves nearly out of business. For companies growing more than 20% a year, the first lesson you learn is growth consumes cash. Growth is a cash furnace. And unless you have your payment cycles right with your customer base, you can grow yourself out of business. And it happens to lots of high growth businesses and nearly happened to me.
Now let's talk about Hireology. I absolutely love the business name. Do you want to tell us what does it mean?
Yeah, Hireology is, as the name implies, the study of hiring. We use a predictive model generated through the collection of data across our entire customer base that for any given job helps you understand what the drivers of success are for that job and gives you everything you need to run a full process. And so we thought the name both explained what we did and how we did it. And so if you hear the name and you think science and hiring, then the brand was a success.
That's great. And tell me, do you work with one particular industry segment or across multiple?
We are hiring technology for owner-operated businesses. And so the majority of our business are with franchise brands. So as an example, we are the preferred talent technology platform for Anytime Fitness and other brands like that, Title Boxing, et cetera. And work also with the independent owners in those markets like gyms or spas and salons. They're primarily, either a retail establishment or service, consumer focused or facing business where people are their product at the end of the day, and the business is owned and operated by the same person or certainly closely managed by the owner.
Well, I know that we do have some listeners out there from Anytime Fitness, so shout out to those guys. And that's great to hear that you do work within, a number of fitness businesses already. So, Adam, I'm keen to understand, when it comes to hiring and going through those processes that you mentioned, does finding the right person start with knowing what you're looking for?
It absolutely does. And I would say, even before that, getting it right starts with the owner and the mindset. Do you believe that the hiring process is a core and critical function of your business? Because if you don't, you'll never get it to where it needs to be. And so let's assume that, if you're listening and following along here, that you're either thinking that way or close to thinking that way. And so once you're ready to treat hiring as a core and critical process, beginning with the end in mind, as the saying goes, is really the right way to start. And you want to ask the question, what do I expect this person to have accomplished by a certain period in time for me to be satisfied that I've made a good hire? For a front desk associate, that could be certain training or certifications. For a personal trainer, that could be certain, customer hours, billable hour levels or training and certifications. And, for someone in your accounting or finance office, that could be certain, cash collection targets. But what's important is to not just start with the job description and hope it works out. You're really trying to recruit for the outcomes you seek. And the best way to do that is to find people that have achieved similar outcomes in a similar environment.
So do you think that we should be focusing on KPIs or responsibilities?
I think we should be talking about KPIs. I mean, responsibilities are important in that we understand what the job is supposed to do, but the KPIs tell us whether or not we're on track toward achieving the outcomes we've set. KPIs are the mile markers or kilometer markers, depending on where you're listening. And if we just expect to end up somewhere and we're not tracking our progress along the way, any trainer will tell you that's not the way to go about it.
Quite often when I interview our guests on the show, we talk about, and they very frequently say they much prefer to hire on attitude and then teach the skills. What's your thoughts on that?
That is exactly what I would advocate. Hiring for attitude is the right approach because you can't teach it. You can teach and train skills if you hire people who are able to learn and apply that knowledge, but you cannot account for bad attitude. As a matter of fact, the research on attitude, and we define attitude as somebody's disposition towards working, not towards a specific job, but toward the act of work. And research shows that attitude toward work is both hardwired and positive attitude is highly correlated with success in a job.
So how would you recommend that we would actually go about determining attitude in the interviewing process?
Well, it's pretty straightforward. You ask targeted questions such as, tell me about the most frustrating aspect of your current or most recent job. What is it that really gets to you about the environment or about your role? And then ask probing questions like, tell me more about that. Or, what are the reasons you think that's happening? And you listen for the word choice. And so somebody that has a positive disposition or attitude toward work will take bad situations and describe them in a positive light. They'll say things like, this is a really tough environment, but I've learned a lot and they gave me a break in this industry and I'm very grateful for that. But it's time for me to move on. Someone with a negative disposition toward work will say things like, these guys don't have a clue what they're doing, or I can't wait to get out of this place, or wow, everybody that, that they hire that has any ability is ready to quit in 6 months. And someone who's saying that about a former employer is likely to be saying that about you in 6 months when they're looking to move on.
Adam, let me ask you this. Do you think, I'm sure you've been in this scenario, that applicants can fake an attitude?
I believe applicants can fake an attitude to a certain point, but if you've structured your interview to dig deep, it's really hard to fudge the answers to targeted behavior-based questions. So, as an example, asking about the thing that's really frustrating about their current job or employer, taking that first answer at face value, that's easy to fudge. Asking, tell me more about that. And then to that answer, continue, go a little deeper there. And then to that follow-up, tell me more about that. Or why do you think that's happening? And you can dig down 4 or 5 layers deep. Most people just can't fudge the 4th or 5th follow-up. And that's why we train our customers and our system, trains you to dig deep into responses, to not just get the marketing copy, if you will, but to get the actual story. And the actual story comes by asking probing follow-up questions.
On the show before, we have talked a little bit about emotional intelligence. And as you would know, it's such a critical trait within our industry, within the fitness industry. How would you explore a candidate's emotional intelligence?
Well, emotional intelligence, it's a catch-all phrase, and it's actually made up of a number of competencies and traits that are all equally important to measure. And so as we get at emotional intelligence, we're thinking about these soft social skills where we want to analyze their presence. We want to analyze, what I'll call certain social graces. Are they a good listener? Are they an active listener? Do they speak with respect? All of the things that, you look at as a catch-all phrase as emotional intelligence. Part of this can be gleaned through behavior-based interview questions. Much of it can be gained through proper assessments. And the third major component is reference checking. The best source of information about a person's performance comes from the managers that have had experience working with them. And if you ask the right kinds of questions in a reference check, you get a pretty good understanding of whether or not this person had a high EQ or not. The same goes for peer references or subordinate references, people that worked for this person if they were in a management role. And we encourage our customers to do all of the above.
Can we talk about the term holistic evaluations? Do you want to explain to us what that means?
Sure. So what the research shows is that any one measure taken by itself is not predictive, no matter how good that measurement is. So, just giving one assessment, measuring one thing, doesn't give you the full picture. But the best assessments or evaluations are ones that measure multiple traits. And so when we say holistic evaluation, that's the type of assessment or approach that measures multiple predictive factors that predict success on the job. So, we want to make sure that we are evaluating based on actual data from the prior role gleaned through interviews. We want to make sure that we are running assessments that test what research shows is the most predictive factor for all jobs, and that's raw intelligence, just analytical capability and raw IQ, not EQ, surprisingly, but combined with other, social competencies, you get a full-rounded picture of the individual.
Now, I know that, a lot of people still use these methods. What are your thoughts on things like Myers-Briggs and behavioural profiling in the actual interview process?
Myers-Briggs is probably the most famous or well-known example of what we'll call a behavioral profile or personality profile. DISC may be another one that listeners have heard of. The reality is that these are great tools for management and onboarding, but they should never be used to make hires. And that might run counter to what folks have heard before, but these assessments measure work style tendencies and approach, but do not measure their ability to actually do the job. So in the case of Myers-Briggs, none of the Myers-Briggs types, or with DISC, none of the DISC types actually predict whether or not a person's going to be successful in a role. It just tells you that their approach is going to be a certain way. So, for example, a D in DISC is the dominant personality in that 4-quadrant process. It means they're going to be very direct. It means that they may be aggressive and very assertive, but it's not going to tell you whether or not they're good at selling gym memberships, right? You may think that D's or dominant personality types are better salespeople. What the research shows is that, quieter, more supportive, or more analytical approaches to sales can be equally or even more effective than a driver type personality. So I would caution listeners to not use those as anything other than ways to get to know someone better and to help a manager onboard an employee more effectively.
So how about with Hireology, Adam? Do you use anything in particular in profiling your candidates?
Well, think of the hiring process like an underwriting process and the way you might buy car insurance. Your car insurance agent doesn't need to meet you in person to know that if you've had 4 accidents and you have a teenager in your family and a sports car in the garage, that the chances of you costing them money are a lot higher than the single 45-year-old woman who drives, 50 kilometers or miles a week. Right? They have collected data over 100 years of driving to know that certain things lead to certain outcomes. And what Hireology does at its core is use this underwriting model and role specificity around the industries we serve to basically run the same math. So we know if you're hiring a membership coordinator at a gym, certain competencies based on the tens of thousands of applicants we've measured across our customer base for that specific job are going to tell us whether or not a certain pool of candidates are a better fit or not. And that's really the core of what we do. So we track and leverage this data. Right now, over about 50,000 applicants a week coming through our platform and have built a highly predictive model for determining whether or not someone's a good fit.
Sorry, did you say 50,000?
That's correct.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Okay, let's talk about references. Should we check references?
In short, yes, absolutely. People don't like to do them because they're time consuming, right? They're a pain in the rear and, people feel like they don't get good information. But if you do it correctly, it's in my opinion, is the best source of information that you can get. There's nothing more telling than the experience from the person's former manager. So you want to hear from them what they've thought about your candidate. And so the way you want to check those is by having the candidate for the job set those interviews up for you. So instead of you calling into the human resources department or just cold calling their manager and saying, can I talk to you? What you want is for that candidate to set that call up. And so, ask that candidate, listen, we'd like to speak to the following 3 managers. Would you help us out and set up some calls for me either at night or this weekend? And, we can have those conversations. Applicants or candidates who are unwilling to do that generally communicate all you really need to know about how they performed in that job. Because after all, what manager doesn't like to give a glowing reference of a former employee? I mean, I've never even seen that in 20 years of doing this. Now, someone that was a great employee always has a manager willing to vouch for them. That's just human nature.
Yeah. Now, I must admit that when it comes to, preparing for our podcasts and meeting new people, I'm a bit of a stalker on Google. What do you think about, doing our own reference checks by Googling candidates?
I think it's great supplemental information, and I'll just reassert that there's no substitute for doing one with a prior employer or manager. But I do think that, the internet provides all sorts of efficiency, to getting to an answer. My caution to you would be, make sure you check the employment laws in your jurisdiction to make sure that you can do that. In many areas in the U.S. in particular, it's a gray area to use Googled information as a basis for not offering somebody a job. So that's the only caveat. I suspect that's a lesser concern for most listeners. But if you're a larger operator, your attorney will want to talk to you about that.
And what I'm hoping you might be able to do is wear the hat of an employer for a second, because worldwide we see high turnover in the fitness industry, really high turnover. What would you say would be 3 tips to help us keep staff within our businesses?
Look, 3 things that today's workforce is looking for in a job in order. We've done this research recently. Number 1, career path. Number 2, pay stability. right? I didn't say most pay. I said pay stability. And 3 is a work-life balance. And so if your organization or business does not explain very clearly how someone can get payoff professionally from investing 2 to 3 years of their life working for you, then you've got some work to do. If you're not giving them a path to pay stability through your pay plans, you've got some work to do. And if, generally speaking, people and most business owners will cringe when I say this, but I could say this here in the U.S. The current incoming generation, more than 40 to 45 hours a week, and you lose them. It's just the expectation is that work and life are balanced, and what that means is you generally have to keep more people on the roster, running fewer hours, and of course most business owners are, every hour of every day on the ball and on the clock, and so those are the 3 things that our research shows leads to better recruiting outcomes.
And should we conduct exit surveys when staff do leave?
We should, and in all but a few examples over my 20 years have I ever seen an exit interview not produce something that is an actionable insight. Most exiting employees, in my experience, are pretty forthright and reasonable in exit interviews and will tell you what they really think. So I would encourage you to invest that 15 to 20 minutes and have that conversation.
And I assume then you can reinvest that information in improved business practices.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if, speaking of turnover, if a particular area of your business is having a hard time keeping people and 5 out of 7 people that turned over recently tell you that the person running that group is really hard to work for, it's your call as to what you do. But my suggestion would be it's probably time to talk with that manager.
Adam, let's talk about recruitment services or outsourcing recruitment. Now, of course, they can come to Hireology. What steps should our tribe follow if they want to outsource recruitment for their business?
There's 3 ways to do it. There's the do-it-yourself model. There's the outsourced recruitment model, and then there's the full-on traditional search model. And I'll start with that. The full-on traditional search model, really expensive. Most folks listening, probably not something that they want to do, but this is where you pay 20 to 30% of somebody's year 1 compensation and have someone do the whole thing for you, right? Deliver them to your doorstep. And that's the way, that's your traditional headhunting model. The second way is recruitment outsourcing, where you're paying someone, the equivalent of about $2,000 to $5,000 US a month to pipeline talent for you. So what they do is they fill up your funnel, recruitment funnel, with pre-screened resumes of people they've already talked to who are interested in your job, and you take it from there. So the benefit there is, you don't have to do all the top of the funnel work of posting jobs and recruiting people and putting them through a telephone interview. You only deal with people that already know about the role and are presumably qualified. And then the third way, the do-it-yourself model, this is really, where Hireology comes in. If you want to take this on yourself and you want to treat it as a core critical process that you want to master, but you need tools to do it, there are tools out there like our platform that help you master this yourself, which I am biased, but believe that, every manager's core skill, really, in addition to running the business, should be finding and keeping great people.
And let's talk about that third option that you just mentioned. How much does a business look at paying for that type of option?
Depending on the head count, the average gym or fitness location would be somewhere between $99 and $250 US per month. Just, depends on the size of the organization.
Okay, Adam. So one last big question for you, and I'm hoping you might be able to leave us with your very best FitBizspiration and tell us your top 3 tips for fitness business owners and managers to hire the right people.
It's really straightforward. There are 3 things to take away here. Number 1, understand that hiring is every bit as core a business process as everything else you do. It's not a nice to have. 2, if you follow a defined process, you will get predictable results. And if you follow a random process, you're going to get random results. So if your hiring is currently producing random results, you need to change the process you follow or implement one. And then third, once you hire great people, make sure they're clear on their role and get the heck out of their way. Let them do their job.
I think that is fantastic advice and great one to leave us on. Adam, thank you so very, very much for joining us today on the show. Now, we're going to be sharing your contact details with all of the tribe, and we'll pop those on this week's show notes. So thank you once again, Adam from Hireology.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me here. It was a lot of fun, and best of luck to everybody listening.
The Fitness Business Podcast is very appreciative of our podcast partners. Here's a quick word from one of our partners.
As you know, one of our goals at the Fitness Business Podcast is to help you grow your business. So I love it when I can tell you about solutions to help you do just that. One of our podcast sponsors is Tribe Team Training, and I'll tell you exactly why you need to remember that name. Let me start by asking you 3 questions. Is your club struggling to grow your membership numbers because of more and more competition? Is your club under pressure to reduce membership fees for your existing members? Do you lose members who go to niche small group programs like CrossFit, boot camps, and boxing, where they often pay double what they're paying with you? Well, the good news is that some clubs have found a new way to grow their club's revenue and profit without having to sell extra memberships. They're doing this by implementing a highly profitable small group training system called Tribe Team Training. In fact, one regional club with only 600 members takes over $200,000 per year on top of their membership fees from their Tribe Team Training program. So, what's it all about? Well, Tribe Team Training is a complete small group training business system that helps clubs make more money without having to sell more memberships. Whether you're currently running small group training or not, it is worth taking the time to see what Tribe Team Training can add to your business. In fact, some clubs have grown to over 30, 40, and 50 sessions per week, with members paying $10 to $15 extra per session. Most clubs have underutilized space or time that can be generating extra cash for the club, extra work for the trainers and the Group X instructors, plus delivering outstanding results for members. The Tribe programs work on large exercise floors and in small functional training spaces with as little as 60 square meters. You may have already have functional training equipment, but without the consistent delivery of fresh programs, it's difficult to take maximum advantage of it. Now, regardless of the success of your current programs, Tribe is offering club owners a free online briefing so you can see for yourself the difference between team training and small group training, the difference it can make to your members, the opportunities it gives to your trainers and instructors, and the extra income it can add to your club. So, to register for your free briefing, all you need to do is head over to tribeteamtraining.com or tribeteamtraining.com.au. Let me tell you those addresses again. It's tribeteamtraining.com or tribeteamtraining.com.au. And of course, a copy of both of those website links will be in today's show notes.
It's time for the Fitness Business Podcast wrap.
Tribe, here are my top takeaways from this week's show. Adam said that KPIs are essential because they tell us if we're on track to achieving the outcomes that we have set. When discussing hiring on attitude or skill, Adam told us that attitude to work hard is hardwired and tightly correlated with success in your job. He said to identify attitude during an interview, ask probing questions and listen for the word choices that the candidate answers with. He also said when talking about emotional intelligence, reference checks are essential because the best source of information about a person's performance comes from the managers that they have had experience working with them. And last but not least, he said behavioural profiles such as Myers-Briggs and DISC are great tools for management and onboarding, but shouldn't be used to hire someone. Tribe, this month we have a very special prize to give away. Sean Greeley, the founder and CEO of Net Profit Explosion, and our podcast guest from Show 63, has generously given the Fitness Business Podcast a ticket for his upcoming mega training event valued at $499. Now, you can win a ticket to this amazing event. Come and join me. I'm going in Sydney. And to win, all you need to do is simply subscribe to the show notes at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. If you've already subscribed in the past, then you automatically go in the draw. Now, the mega training event will be held in Australia, in the US, and in the UK. So if you're the lucky winner, you can choose your closest city. You have until August 25th to enter, so make sure that you subscribe today. So once again, that is fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. And another huge big thank you to Sean and the team from NPE for this fantastic prize. Tribe, I am so excited to be bringing to you a really bit of a special event announcement, let's call it. Now, I am speaking today to Lynn Trin, who is the host of the Online Trainers Summit. Welcome to the show, Lynn.
Thank you so much, Chantel. How are you going?
I'm very, very good. And I'm excited because I reckon that the Online Trainers Summit is something that our tribe is going to be very, very interested in. So do you want to start off by telling us all about the event?
Yeah, exactly. Look, the event is essentially, for any personal trainer who wants to build an online personal training business. So over the past month, I've been lucky enough to interview approximately 47 experts around the globe, people in the US, Canada, UK, Australia. And really, I wanted to nut down a system to help personal trainers build their own online personal training business from marketing, how we can generate more leads, how we can get more leads through the door. And ultimately, the second system is sales. How do we convert those leads into our own clients, through phone, through webinars, through sales copy, email marketing. And thirdly, it's really helping trainers with the systems to get their clients amazing results. Now, we look at using things like software, membership sites, and things like that. And one of the biggest reasons why I brought this out was because as a personal trainer, I worked, 5 years ago at Fitness First, wondering what my career was going to look like, whether or not I'd end up with my own physical studio, whether I'd end up, mentoring other trainers under me. And I found that I decided to go online, and I found that there wasn't a lot of great information out there. There were a lot of coaches and there were a lot of experts out there, but they either one were charging a ton of money. We're talking $10,000 to $25,000 to join masterminds, or, we have other coaches who are out there who haven't really done it themselves. They haven't been in the trenches, and they're regurgitating information that they read on blogs, podcasts, etc. So the whole aim of this was to really get clear and to help personal trainers out there come up with a system and a resource for free that they could use from these top experts. So that's essentially it, Chantal. And yeah, I'm pretty pumped about it.
I can understand why. Do you want to tell us maybe a little bit about, throw us a few names, because you've got some big name speakers or guests as part of the online summit. Tell us about a few of the guests you've got.
Awesome. So one of my favorite guests on the summit was Craig Ballantyne. I remember in 2005, it was one of the first products I bought, which was Turbulence Training. So Craig's absolutely huge he's almost like the godfather of fitness. We've also got people like Ryan Lee on. We've got Paul Mort. If you've listened to his podcast, he does a lot of email marketing. We've got John Goodman, who's the founder of Personal Trainer Development Center. We've got Dr. Krista Scott Dixon, who's, the kind of the program writer at Precision Nutrition. We've got Gary Vaynerchuk's own personal trainer, Mike Vacanti, talking about Snapchat. We've got New York Times bestsellers, John Romanello. Yeah, just a whole lot more, It's, Ben Greenfield. If you listen to his podcast show as well, you'll know him. And yeah, we've got, Rachel Guy and Nick Cheadle. I think they're Australian and they're from Sydney. So they're going to be talking about authority and building up your expert status and building up a huge following. So yeah, it's really cool. It starts on, August the 25th. It'll go for about 10 days. And over that 10-day span, every single personal trainer who registers will get access to all the interviews for free. And if you do decide that, you want all the replays, you want all the show notes, you want, we've got 10 different bonuses in terms of marketing ads and sales scripts and all that. That's just $97 for early bird access. So it's a great collection of information, without paying the high fees from people who are actually doing it, which I think is very important.
That's definitely a sensational lineup of guests, Lynn. So if I am a personal trainer, I've decided to sign up, I take part and I view the sessions that you've got going. When I walk away after that 10 days, what am I walking away with? Will I be able to go away and start my own online personal training business?
Yeah, definitely. You're going to have more clarity with how it's supposed to be run. I suppose we're looking at running a business, and for most trainers out there, unfortunately, they're not in that business mindset. And what I mean by business mindset is having systems in place where you can kind of step away from that, go on a holiday and still get paid. So we're looking at a marketing system. You're going to learn the marketing systems, how you can generate more leads. You're going to be looking at sales systems. So, we'll be looking at things from your sales script over the phone to webinars to selling via email, so that you have a system in place so that if you're not there, you can step away and have somebody, do the sales calls for you, follow the script and still make you sales. And ultimately, the last thing is, how are you going to get your clients amazing results? Now, the problem with most trainers going online is that they replicate their one-to-one time offline, online. And the problem with that is, you're never going to be able to sleep. You can't scale it. Unfortunately, you can only take on 20 or so clients at $200 a month. And that's not a scalable yet a profitable business. And so just like if you were opening your own studio, where you had staff, I want to show you how you can build that system virtually and essentially build something that you can build a team around. So essentially you're going to get all the tools, or most of the tools, from all the experts that are currently working now, because as you know, Chantel, the internet marketing space, or the internet's changing so rapidly these days that what works now might not work in 6 months, or what worked a year ago or 6 months ago doesn't work today. So it's very, very important to get the latest up-to-date information and implement it. That's the key. So you walk away with something that you can implement inside your business and get results.
I absolutely love the sound of this, Lynn. And Tribe, I'm so excited because this is online. It means that every single one of you can jump on, you can take part, you can learn from these experts that are coming together in one place for this online trainers summit. So last but certainly not least, most importantly, how do they book?
Yeah, fantastic. Well, you know what? Just head over to www.onlinetrainerssummit.com. You'll see a registration page. All you need to do is just pop your name and your email down. Now, once you register, you are locked in, and you'll get an email from me, and you'll get an invitation to join our Facebook group as well. And inside there, I'll be keeping you up to date with everything that's coming up, as well as, tips, tricks and systems on how you can grow your business in the meantime whilst we wait until August the 25th.
Love it, love it. So we will make sure that we put a link into today's show notes for that website. Once again, do you want to just tell us one more time, Lynn, what was that website?
Yeah, fantastic. It's www.onlinetrainerssummit.com.
Excellent. Tribe, jump online, check it out, register, take part. And I want to say a big thank you so much to Lynn Trinh for joining us today and telling us all about the Online Trainers Summit.
Thank you, Chantel. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for joining me for another week of the Fitness Business Podcast. And remember, what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.
Great show this week that you should be suffering DOMs, delayed onset mind soreness, as you are overloaded, and that's when your mind is strengthened. You and your business have been strengthened thanks to the amazing support of our premier sponsor, Active Management. Check out www.activemgmt.com.au only if you want to strengthen your business and your leadership. Don't forget, all today's links and notes are found at www.fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, where you can also subscribe and never miss a show and maybe win a prize. Next week is another incredible guest with Chantal, so get ready for more Fit Bizpiration.